the train that arrives at midnight. Chapter 1. The platform with no clocks. The station had no clocks. That was the first wrong thing. Every station I have ever known carried time like a badge. Face above the concourse, face on the pillar, face on the wrist of the guard, who never forgives late. Even ruined stations keep one dead dial to remind stone what hour it used to be. But not here. The name board was half-eaten by weather, letters ghosting out of the paint, GNSDOW. The canopy ribs were rust, the glass panes missing, the sky looking in like a curious animal. Pigeons had left their hieroglyphs along the roofline, as if they'd invented a language for people who never came. And along the platform, brackets waited where clocks should hang, empty, patient, as though time had been removed for cleaning and simply never returned. I dragged the key out of my pocket and tried the door beside the ticket window. It stuck, then gave. Dust lifted in a single breath the size of the room. The office smelled of paper left in rain and dried too late. There was a desk. There was a chair. There was a ledger, older than the chair and heavier than the desk. Its leather was cracked like winter hands. Its clasp had a mind of its own. I set my bag down. I set myself down. And for a minute I did the thing men do when they arrive at work that used to belong to someone else. I looked for the previous owner's ghost in the mess he left. An enamel mug, a packet of sugar gone to stone, a pencil sharpened with a knife until it was more knife than pencil. On the wall, a sheet pinned by 2 rusty tacks. Notice 2 acting station master. If the midnight train arrives, you will. 1. Keep the lamps. 2. Not alter the timetable. 3. Sell no new tickets. Regional office. No date. No date. No signature. Only the fact of it. Only the words like rules made by someone who knew how to write them, and leave. I opened the ledger. Blank pages lifted their faces. The first dozen were clean as a throat, waiting for a doctor. Then ink, names written by somebody with a guilty wrist. Its columns for origin and destination, printed in letters so neat they looked ashamed to be here. Origin, where to? But the destinations weren't places, not ones I knew. Home when it was, written twice. Back of the wardrobe, before the fire. The platform where he stayed. On the last filled line, a name I didn't know, and a destination I did. Grandson down. I closed the book. The covers tried to open again. The leather had the patience of an animal that knows it can wait you out. I set the ledger beneath the drawer, like you set a sleeping dog somewhere it can't watch you. Out beyond the broken window, evening soaked into everything. The rails ran away to the west, the way veins run under older skin. The line had been lifted past the final signal years ago. I'd seen the notice. I'd signed for the keys, because small wages in a dead station beat no wages in a town that had already sold its shelves. They told me, keep the roof from falling, keep kids from breaking their legs, keep the pigeons from moving in full time. No mention of a midnight train. A gull cried down the estuary. Cloud took away the last useful light. I lit the lamps. The lamp oil had the color of bad teeth. The chimneys were streaked the way a face streaks when it has tried not to cry and failed. One by one, along the platform, wicks took flame and gave it back. Light pooled on the concrete, left dark between. The bracket where a clock should hang looked more naked in the glow. I stepped to the edge where platform becomes fall, becomes rail. The ballast had settled into a shape you learn to see after years of trains. The shallow of weight where wheels used to pass. No recent shine, no metal smell. Just the faintest tremble in the soles of my boots. I told myself wind. I told myself my own pulse in my feet. I stood very still and let the station listen to me. Some places are like people. They do not speak until you do not either. Some places are like animals. They do not come close until you pretend to look away. The tremble rose again. Not much, enough to make the oil in the lamps quiver, enough to put a sound in the bracket where the clock was not. A small, dry tapping, steady as breath. I looked down the line. There was no line. Only darkness where the rails ended and scrub began. Then the fog came. Not off the river, not off the fields. From the west where the sleepers had been stolen. It rolled low and thick, pooling where the rails used to be, climbing the platform edge like a cat onto a lap. The lamps pushed it back a hand's width, and no more. The tremble turned to a hum, the hum to a throat, a sound older than engines and newer than prayer. I stepped behind the tickethoch, because a window frame is a kind of shield, even if it couldn't stop a thrown coin. I placed my hands flat on the counter the way you press your hands to your own ribs when the bad dream stands beside the bed. The fog parted as if something with a metal mind had told it to. Headlamps opened their eyes where nothing should have eyes. Yellow at first, then white as lies. You tell children to keep them from falling into stories. And the train came in. Steel whispered where there was no steel. Wheels sang on lifted rails. A buffer kissed air with the old etiquette. The platform, which had been the last honest thing in the district, moved a quarter-inch under my boots and then remembered itself. Carriages slid out of fog and took their places against a platform that had not hosted a carriage since the year my father still believed in wages. Paint the color of night had been polished by hands that were not paid. Numbers glowed in enamel ovals, A, B, C, D, E. Then a van with a red lamp that burned as if it had inherited its oil from the eyes of sailors. Behind all of it, a black shape breathed out smoke that smelled like rain on stone that never sees sun. No whistle, no guard's shout. Only the lamps nodding in the draft of something that should not exist. A figure stepped down from the nearest carriage. Hat with a brim, coat to the shin, gloves the color of paper that has killed letters. He had no face. Not that he had a blank instead. Not that cloth had been stitched where eyes go. He had no face the way the station had no clocks by decision, by habit, as if you could remove an element of a place, and the place would keep doing its job out of politeness. He turned where sight should be, and found me behind glass I did not believe in. Tickets, he said. The word did not come from a mouth. It came from the bracket where the clock ought to be, from the hollow inside the lamped chimneys, from the ledger's clasp. It arrived in the room, and the room had to sit down because it had been spoken at it. I did the thing a man does when he is being watched by something that has chosen the wrong idea of a man to copy. I pretended work. I slid the hatch. The wood stuck, then gave with a sound like a page refusing to tear. I cleared my throat and found it full of dust. I lifted the little brass flap that meant money would once have clinked. "Regional office says," I said, and my voice behaved. "No new tickets." Of course, the station said through every object, and the conductor without a face nodded. He set a stack of cards on the counter. They were blank. He set a pencil beside them. It had already been sharpened to the shape of what comes after pencil. "Then you will write," he said. "I will not." I meant to say it firm. It came out like a man trying on a jacket he wore in a life before his shoulders learned their current slope. I tried again. "I will not sell." Sell. The lamps made a small sound that could have been a rain of laughter or glass. "Nothing is sold," the station said. "Everything is paid." The ledger on the floor bumped the drawer from beneath. It wanted out. It wanted to be the table at which this conversation took place. I did not let it. "Who comes?" I asked the air, because that felt safer than asking the coat, when no one has come down these tracks since the year the line lifted. He turned, the way an idea turns. His hand lifted, gloved fingers delicate as the beaks of birds that learn how to ask for chips. He pointed down the platform. People stood there, not many at first. 4, 6, then more. They had not come from the carriages. They had come from spaces between lamps. They had come from the memory of queuing. Umbrellas where the night did not rain. Hats in hands where the wind had not been invited. They did not look at one another, because people like that don't. They looked at the window where tickets are a promise. One of them I knew. She wore my mother's coat, the one with the missing button at the throat that she always said she would mend when evenings returned to the street. Her hair was wrong too dark, too thick, but her hands were my memory's hands. Behind her, a boy whose shoulders had learned the angle of shame early. A man with oil under his nails from a machine that had cried too long. A woman whose belly and coat disagreed about the future. They belonged to no year, and every year this station had ever lived. Their mouths did not move. Their names did. Along the line of the counter, in the air, in the ledger trying to lift the drawer. The conductor tipped his hat politely to the absence of my face and placed one blank card on the wood between us. The pencil rolled once and stopped, as if it had reached the edge of something that would not be argued. Right, the station asked, and now the ask had weight, not for purchase. For record, I do not love rules, but I love the row of mugs on the shelf that mean a day will be followed by another. I love the line of figures in a box that means someone has counted something that will not set fire to my house if left uncounted. I have always loved ledgers, even when they have not loved me. I picked up the pencil. It was not sharp anymore. It did not matter. It wrote because the card wanted ink. On the first line, I wrote the thing my hand wanted to write before my head told it otherwise. Origin, where we meant to go. Where to, where we ended. Not a place, a verdict. I turned the card. On the back, my name had appeared in a hand I had never taught it. Acting station master. I did not drop it. I do not drop things where people can see me drop them. Behind the glass, the queue arranged itself into a kindness people practice when they believe time is in the building. One of them pushed a child forward who had no child beside him. Another tucked hair that would not be tamed. A third stared at me like a dog reading words in a language it wants to kill. I placed the card on the counter for the next to touch. No one took it. The conductor's gloved hand lifted again and turned ever so slightly toward the first passenger. It was an invitation. A man in a hat gives another man in a hat when they both remember that the world was once made of hats. The first passenger stepped to the hatch. Up close, his coat had moth mouths in it. His eyes had been folded since the last time someone laid a penny on them. He did not speak. The air spoke for him, rummaging through my head for the voice that had left in 2003, and adding the part about the cough the sea had given back 3 times. Ticket, please. I slid the blank toward him. His fingertips did not touch it. The card darkened all the same. Origin, back of the wardrobe. Where to, after the water? He nodded, not at me, at the space between us where the card had chosen for itself. He went past the hatch, along the lamps, to Carriage A. He stepped in through a door that remembered how to open for coats like his. I waited for the air to sigh back into its chest. I did not wait long. Name after name did not pass my ears and did not pass my lips. Card after card wrote itself with origins that were addresses people do not tell the post, because they do not want the post to know where they lived when they loved. Destinations that were verdicts, stitched with grace. The boy with the shoulders chose origin, under the table. He chose where to, when they stopped. He looked at me in a way that people learn when the house is made of rules, written by someone who is always elsewhere. I raised the hatch higher for him without letting the conductor's glove feel I had done it. When the mother in my mother's coat reached the window, she did not look down, her card filled without respect for this year. Origin, the kitchen with the radio. Where to, the hour before they left. My hand shook, but not enough to lose me. I set the card on the counter with the gentleness a man finds when he knows the only thing between him and a fall is manners. Later, the man with the oil under his nails laid a coin on the wood out of habit. It rolled a little, because coins do not like to stop where men ask. It came to rest with the king looking up as if wanting to see how I would spend him. The conductor's gloved hand touched the coin. The coin went dark, like it had been told its metal belonged to shadow. He slid it back. Fares are not money. The bracket where the clock should hang said softly, fares are time. The queue dwindled. Carriage doors shut themselves with the courtesy old wood shows old wood. Somewhere behind fog, something built for coal, and command shifted its weight and waited to pull. The lamps fluttered. The bracket tapped. A last passenger stepped forward, without feet. You do not need feet when you have learned how to go elsewhere without telling your shoes. He was small. He carried a kite made of paper that had been written on both sides until it forgot which side was true. He set the kite on the counter, and the pencil touched it of its own tired mind. Origin field behind the school. Where to? Let me have it one more time. I did not cry. I learned that skill years ago when my father taught me that you cannot shift a sick cow with tears. But something under my tongue broke, and things like salt happened. The boy's kite lifted, as if a window had opened in a house no one had lived in. He smiled with the crooked "you cannot teach." He went to Carriage C because of course he did. Births love the small sleep of small chests. The conductor's gloved hand closed a stack of unused cards and pressed them lightly into my palm. "Midnight," he said, and now the word had both teeth and pity. "Every night?" I asked. He did not nod. He did not shake. He held still, like a tool hung on a peg nose. Its day will come back around. He tipped his hat to the space where my face had learned to keep what it cannot afford to spend. He stepped onto the platform. He blew no whistle, and still the train moved. Steel whispered where rust had sworn never to host it again. Fog parted because it had learned obedience from an old timetable. The lamps bowed. Carriage by carriage the darkness took back what it had loaned. The red-lamped van went last. Its eye, a small hot coin the night could not pocket. Then there was only the platform, only the brackets, only the lamps, only the tremble in my boots, like I had stood a little too close to a marriage, and believed in it. I stood in the office where my breath had drawn shapes on the glass for people who were already elsewhere. The ledger pushed at the drawer again. I let it out. I set it on the desk. I opened it to a page that had been blank when I arrived. My name was written there, in the same guilty neat hand that had taught the first 16 lines how to behave. Acting station master, shift commenced. 23:58. Duty. Keep the lamps, not alter the timetable. Sell no new tickets. Under that, without my hand, the page decided to be full, and write what must be remembered when clocks do not. I fetched the pencil. I sharpened it until it was more knife than pencil. And I began, because there were no clocks, and because the station had chosen me, and because, after you have seen a midnight train arrive where there are no rails, there is only the work. I wrote until the oil ran low. I wrote until the lamps leaned. I wrote until the bracket at the far end tapped once like a tired heart, saying, "Enough." I closed the ledger and it did not resist. We had reached an understanding the way men and animals do when both intend to outlive the other. Outside, fog remembered how to be river and went home. I slept on the bench against a ticket wall with my cap over my eyes because that is what station masters do in the stories we tell to ourselves to keep the bad ones from coming true. At 23:57, the bracket tapped again. At 23:58, the lamps woke. At 23:59, the ledger lifted its own cover like a yawn. And at midnight, the station held its breath, the way you hold yours when a question that has learned your name knocks on the bone between your ears. That was how it began. That was how it began again, and again, and again. Chapter 2. Tickets that write themselves. The second night, I lit the lamps early. The fog had not yet risen, but the platform already felt crowded. Not with people, with waiting, like the rails absent, though they were still remembered wait. The ledger sat on the desk, open where it had chosen to stop, my name written at the top of the page. Below, blank lines. Enough for a full train. I told myself I would not touch it. I told myself I would watch only, but I had said the same the night before, and already the pencil had learned where my hand would go. At 23:58, the bracket above the platform tapped once. At 23:59, the lamp swayed as if a draft had passed through, and at midnight, the tremble came through the soles of my boots. Not loud, not sharp, but steady, a pulse. The kind that tells you something with a heartbeat is coming closer. Fog unrolled across the platform edge. Headlamps opened their eyes. The train slid in from nowhere, with the dignity of something that does not need to prove it exists. The conductor stepped down. Same hat, same gloves, same absence of face. He set a stack of blank cards on the counter, sharper than last night, as if they had been cut from the air itself. The pencil rolled toward me. Right, the station said. The queue formed, not with footsteps, with presence. One moment the platform was empty. The next, they were there. Figures with coats too old, shoes too thin, eyes that had never asked permission to leave. The first leaned close to the hatch. Her mouth did not move. The air moved for her. Ticket. I slid a blank card forward. It darkened beneath her hand. Origin. The garden before frost. Where to? Where they still sing. The conductor took it with a nod. She boarded Carriage A. The next came, and the next. Each card wrote itself the instant my hand released it. Names, places, verdicts. Some origins were small under the bed, behind the shed door. Some vast the sea before it broke, the city when it believed. Destinations, stranger still, after apologies. When they didn't look back. The night without dogs. I wrote nothing. The cards wrote themselves. But the ledger on the desk filled anyway, ink scrawling in neat lines, as if my wrist were guiding it from across the room. Halfway through the queue, I faltered, because I saw him, my companion, from years ago. The one who had gone to sea and not returned. The one they said was lost in a storm. His coat was soaked dark, but no drops fell. His hair plastered to his forehead, his eyes clear to clear. He reached the hatch. The card in my hand trembled. He did not speak, but I heard him. Origin, the deck, when it split. We're too dry shore at last. My throat closed. I nearly said his name, but the black book twitched in my coat, its page cracking open to scrawl new words. Do not speak their names, or they will stay. I bit my tongue. Blood filled my mouth. I slid the card across. He took it. He boarded. The lamps leaned with the weight of my silence. When the last passenger stepped through, the conductor turned back. His glove brushed the counter. The blank cards vanished, leaving only the pencil, worn shorter. You write well, the station said. Better each night. I shook my head. I don't write. They do. The faceless tilt that passed for a nod. The hand is irrelevant. The record matters. The lamps dimmed. The fog swallowed rails that were not there. The train slid out, carriages vanishing into nothing, the red-lamped van winking last. I turned back to the office. The ledger waited. Every line filled, every origin and destination neat as scripture. At the bottom of the page, my name again, not written by me, not signed by choice. Acting station master, shift complete, 047. Beneath it, in fresh ink, do not miss a night. Chapter 3. Carriage A, the compartment that remembers. On the third night, I told myself I would only watch. No writing, no cards, no ledger. But the house that wears rails does not ask. It expects. At 23:58, the bracket tapped. At 23:59, the lamps bowed. And at midnight, the hum came crawling up the soles of my boots. The fog rolled, the headlamps blinked awake, and the black train slid in, as though the world had not ended years ago. The conductor stepped down, blank cards in hand, gloved fingers patient, as always. He did not look at me. He did not need to. I slid the hatch. The cards wrote themselves. One by one, the passengers boarded. One by one, the ledger filled without my hand. When the last was gone, the conductor gestured. Not at the stack. Not at the desk. At me. It was time to board. I stepped onto the platform. My boots did not echo. The lamps leaned closer as though listening for something I might say. I said nothing. The conductor tipped his hat to me and opened the nearest carriage door. Carriage A, the first compartment. Inside, the air smelled of old cloth and silver nitrate. The corridor was narrow, lined with sliding doors. Each compartment had a window, but the windows showed nothing, only fog pressed close, white and thick as wool. I slid the first door. Inside, benches faced each other. On the seat lay photographs. Dozens, spread like cards. Faces stared from them, some smiling, some caught mid-blink, some blurred as if moving. I bent closer. The faces were passengers, not just those I had seen tonight, the ones from before, and others more than the ledger had recorded. The photos were still developing. Silver patches shifted, pulling detail from the air. One image darkened as I watched, a boy clutching a paper kite, mouth open in a grin too wide to be alive. Another showed the woman in my mother's coat, but the coat was empty. Her face was not there, only the button she had never mended. I reached for the photo. The air hissed. The black book in my coat jerked. New words burned across its page. Do not touch what remembers. It will remember you instead. I snatched my hand back. The photo quivered, then stilled. I slid the next door. More photos. These were of me. One showed me standing at the hatch, pencil in hand, eyes tired. Another showed me on the platform, lamps burning around me, fog at my knees. Another me, asleep on the bench, cap pulled low, ledger open at my side. The most recent me in this very corridor, hand on the door I had just opened. Each photo had a date scrawled at the bottom, but none were today's. Every date was a year ahead. Photos of what I had not yet done. Photos of me in futures that hadn't arrived. My knees shook. I slammed the door. The conductor's voice drifted from nowhere. Not loud. Not soft. Everywhere. Carriage A remembers. All that is, all that was, all that will be. The passengers ride on their own echoes. I walked farther. Every door hid more photographs. Some scattered, some neatly stacked, some pinned to the walls like shrines. 1,000 faces, 1,000 lives, caught in silver. The train carried them all. At the last compartment, I stopped. The door was already open. Inside, a single photograph sat on the bench. Its surface was blank, waiting. I did not step inside. I did not touch it. I shut the door. When I turned back, the conductor stood at the end of the corridor, hat brim low, gloved hand extended. "Return," he said. I obeyed. I stepped off the train. The lamps flickered. The fog swallowed steel. The hum faded. The ledger on the desk filled its last line. Acting station master observed Carriage A. Compartment remembers him. Chapter 4. Carriage B. The dining car that serves silence. The fourth night, I promised myself I would not board. I would keep to the hatch, slide the cards, watch the queue dissolve into fog. But promises made at the edge of midnight weigh less than smoke. At 23:58, the bracket tapped. At 23:59, the lamps bowed. At midnight, the hum rose like blood in my ears. The fog opened. The train arrived. The conductor placed the stack of blank cards on the counter. His faceless tilt was not invitation this time. It was command. I followed. Carriage B waited, with its doors already open. Light spilled into the platform, gold and warm, like a hearth left burning. Inside, the air smelled of roasted meat, fresh bread, sugared fruit. I had not eaten in days, not properly. The hunger the house had planted in me stirred, sharp as knives. I stepped in. The dining car stretched long, tables on both sides, white cloths pressed smooth, silverware gleaming. Candelabras burned steady, despite the motion. Plates were set, steaming with food. Cups brimmed with wine so red it seemed to pulse. Passengers sat at the tables, not many, perhaps 24. They lifted forks, they raised cups, but no sound came. No clink of cutlery, no scrape of chair, no murmur of voices. Only silence. Silence so heavy, it pressed my ribs inward. I walked farther. The silence walked with me. The first table I passed held a family of 3. A woman, a man, a child. The child's mouth moved, laughing at some joke only he heard, but no sound left his lips. The parents smiled, mouths opening, closing, words stolen before they could breathe. The next table, an old man lifted a goblet. Wine spilled across his chin, soaking his shirt. He coughed, chest heaving, but the cough made no sound. His face turned purple. He slammed his fist on the table, desperate for air. Still silence. Then his head dropped. The wine stilled. The silence did not break. I moved faster. The hunger in my gut twisted, sick now, not for food, but for sound. Any sound. A cough, a breath, a scrape. Nothing. At the center of the car, I stopped. Because there I saw myself. Not across the table. In the seat. Head bowed. Fork in hand. Food steaming before me. My mouth moved, speaking, begging, but no words escaped. Only silence, thick as oil, filling my throat. The black book in my coat burned. Pages tore open without my hand. Words scrawled jagged across the paper. Do not sit. Do not eat. The food swallows sound. My double raised its head. Eyes hollow. Mouth open. Screaming without voice. It slammed its hands against the table. Over and over. But silence swallowed each strike whole. The conductor stood at the far end. Hat brim low. Gloved hand resting on the back of my doubles chair. This is the dining car, he said. Here, the passengers are consumed, not the food. I staggered back. The plates closest to me shivered. The food turned its faces toward me, meat splitting into grins. Bread rising with lungs. Fruit bleeding black juice like tears. Every dish leaned closer, mouths wide. Hungry not for flesh but for sound. I clamped my teeth shut. I held my breath. I would not let them take it. The silence grew heavier, crushing, a weight on bone. My skull rang with the pressure of unspoken screams. The hunger inside me clawed, desperate to open my mouth, to give them something, anything. I forced my feet back. 1 step. 2, the corridor tilted. The lamps dimmed. Passengers kept eating, mouths working, plates emptying, but never a sound. At the door, I nearly broke. My throat spasmed. The silence pushed its fingers into my mouth, prying. I tasted copper, blood. I bit down. Hard. Pain filled my mouth. Real, mine. The silence recoiled. I stumbled through the door. The conductor tipped his hat, faceless as ever. The car sealed behind me. The hum faded. Back in the office, the ledger filled itself. Line after line, neat and patient. Acting station master observed Carriage B. The food ate no flesh tonight. It only ate sound. At the bottom of the page, one final line appeared in thicker ink. Soon it will ask for more. Chapter 5. Carriage C. The sleeper that never wakes. The 5th night, I feared sleep most of all. Not the dark, not the train. Sleep. Because the house in the rails had already found ways to use hunger, silence, and memory against me. Dreams would be worse. But at 23:58, the bracket tapped. At 23:59, the lamps bowed. And at midnight the hum rose through the soles of my boots, like it always did. The fog parted. The train arrived. The conductor stepped down, and without a word, he gestured to Carriage C. The sleeper, the corridor was narrow, lamps flickering in little brass cages. Curtains hung thick on either side, drawn over the bunks. The air smelled of starch and sweat, heavy clotted, the kind of air that belongs to bodies that lie too long. I drew a curtain. The berth inside was occupied. A man lay still, eyes closed. Chest rose, fell, rose again, breathing, asleep. On the floor beneath the bunk lay his boots. The leather was fresh, too fresh, like they had only just been unlaced. I reached to touch his wrist. The black book in my coat snapped open. Words bled across its page before my fingers could make contact. Do not wake them. The waking is worse. I let the curtain fall. Farther down, another berth. This one held a child. Face slack, mouth slightly open, breath whistling faint. Her hand clutched a toy rabbit, ear worn thin. The toy twitched. Just once. A shiver down its ragged ear, as though it dreamed to. I shut the curtain fast. The corridor grew narrower, curtains closer. Each bunk breathed. Dozens of sleepers. None stirred. None turned. All dreaming the same dream. I could feel it pressing at the edges of my skull, trying to slip inside. I bit my tongue until blood filled my mouth. The pressure eased. For now, at the end of the carriage, one curtain hung open. Inside, the berth was empty. No sleeper, no sheets, only a pillow. And on the pillow, a photograph. I bent close. It was me. Eyes closed, mouth open, breathing, asleep. The date scrawled below was not today, not tomorrow, a year from now. The black book writhed, pages slapping open, ink scrawling, jagged. Every passenger sleeps eventually. Every station master too. The photograph darkened. My chest tightened, as though my own lungs had forgotten the rhythm. I gasped. Air burned like ash. The conductor appeared at the end of the corridor, hat brim low, gloved hand lifting. "Return," he said. I stumbled past the bunks. Curtains trembled as I passed. Breath deepened, louder, faster, as though every sleeper dreamed me into their story. Hands twitched beneath cloth, feet shifted. 100 dreamers turning toward me in unison. I ran, out of the car, onto the platform. The lamps flared, fighting the fog. The hum dimmed. The doors of Carriage C sealed. Back in the office, the ledger filled itself, line after line, neat as scripture. Acting station master observed Carriage C. The sleepers did not wake. They never do. At the bottom of the page, a final sentence in thicker ink. But soon, one will. Chapter 6. The Conductor Without a Face. On the 6th night, I did not wait at the hatch. I stood on the platform before the lamps were lit. The fog had not risen. The hum had not started. Still, I waited, because I knew this night was not for passengers. It was for me. At 23:58, the bracket tapped. At 23:59, the lamps bowed. At midnight, the rails hummed with the weight of something that was not there. The train slid out of fog that should not exist, its carriages breathing steam like cattle in frost. The conductor stepped down, hat brim low, gloves pale, face absent. But this time he did not place the cards on the counter. He extended his hand toward me. "Come," he said. I followed him into the black van at the rear of the train. Inside, no compartments, no seats. Only a long, narrow chamber lined with shelves. On every shelf, boxers. Wooden, brass, iron, each with a name carved across the lid. Names I recognized. Names I didn't. Some had dates. Some had words instead of years. The hour he left, when she believed, before the fire. The conductor walked ahead, gloved hand gliding along the shelves. Each box rattled faint when he touched it. A whisper rose from inside, soft as breath. "These are the fares," he said. "Not money, not flesh. What is paid is time." He stopped at one box, ran his hand across the lid. My name stared up at me in shallow carved letters. The box rattled harder. A whisper spilled into the air. It was my voice. I froze. I had not spoken, but the voice was mine. The words were mine. A sentence I had not yet said. "Please, let me go." The conductor tilted his head. "Every passenger pays, even the station master, especially the station master." He lifted the box, held it out, open. The black book in my coat writhed, its spine splitting. Pages cracked open, ink burning across the parchment. "Do not open what carries your name, or it will carry you instead." I shook my head. "No." The conductor's gloved hand tightened on the box. The wood groaned, a seam split. A sliver of light bled through. Not golden, not white, black light. Like an absence so strong it had learned to shine. My lungs locked. The box pulled at me. My voice inside grew louder, screaming now, 1,000 pleas tangled into one. Please, please, please. I staggered back. The shelves rattled. Boxers thumped. Names chanted in whispers. Dozens of voices rising together. The conductor set the box back. The whispers died. The light faded. He turned to me. Do you understand? I forced my throat open. No, you will, he said. He led me back down the van. At the far end hung a mirror. Tall, silver, clean. The only polished surface I had seen on the train. He stepped aside. I faced it. At first, only myself. Tired. Dust on my coat. Eyes hollow. Then the mirror shivered, and behind me appeared the carriages. Every compartment, every berth, every table, every passenger, and me in all of them. Me in Carriage A, staring at photographs. Me in Carriage B, mouth open, screaming without sound. Me in Carriage C, lying in a berth, asleep forever. Dozens of me, hundreds, every version the train could imagine. The conductor's hand rested on my shoulder, cold, heavy. This is the train, he said. It carries all of you. Every you. Everywhere you might be. Everywhere you will not. The mirror shivered again. All the versions of me turned their heads in unison. Every mouth opened. Every voice spoke together. Tickets, please. The mirror cracked. The sound was bone-breaking. Shards fell, but did not hit the floor. They hung in the air, turning, catching light that wasn't there. Each shard showed a face. Not mine, not his. Passengers I had not yet met. The conductor tipped his hat. The shards dissolved. The mirror went dark. He opened the van's rear door. Fog poured in. The hum deepened. Return, he said. I obeyed. Back in the office, the ledger wrote, without me. Acting station master entered the van. He saw the fares. He saw himself. He did not open the box. At the bottom of the page, fresh ink scrawled itself larger, darker. One night, he will. Chapter 7. Carriage D. The Nursery of Unclaimed Luggage. The seventh night, the platform smelled of milk turned sour. Not real milk. Memories milk. The kind you smell when you pass an alley where bottles once stood, decades ago. It curdled the back of my throat before the fog even rose. At 23:58, the bracket tapped. At 23:59, the lamps bowed. At midnight, the hum came up from the rails that were not there. The conductor stepped down. No cards this time. No ledger. Only his gloved hand pointing at Carriage D, the nursery. Inside, the air was thick and warm. Too warm. The kind of heat that clings, that makes breath heavy. The corridor narrowed, lined not with doors, but with stacked crates, wooden trunks, canvas bags, iron chests, each one tagged. Each tag bore a name. Some I knew, some I didn't. Some weren't names at all, just words scratched in a child's hand. Mine, don't touch. For when I come back, the tags fluttered though no wind moved. And from inside the crates came faint sounds, whimpers, rustling, cooing, like infants, like kittens, like something that wanted to be small enough to love. I moved forward. The black book in my coat snapped open, pages fluttering. Ink scrawled itself jagged across the paper. Do not open. Not all children are meant to grow. I passed a trunk bound with rusted iron. Its tag read, First Tooth. Inside came the sound of chewing, slow, wet, persistent. Next, a canvas bag sagging on its hook. Its tag read, Her Laugh. From within came muffled giggles. But they never stopped, never breathed. Only laugh after laugh, until it sounded like crying. The corridor pressed closer. The heat thickened. The sounds multiplied. Dozens of whispers, coos, cries, rattling in their boxers. Unclaimed luggage, unclaimed lives. At the far end, a single crib, painted white, peeling, rocking gently, though no one touched it. Its tag read, Station Master. I froze. Inside the crib lay a bundle wrapped in linen, small, still, breathing. I reached for the cloth. The book burned in my chest. Pages writhed, desperate. Ink seared through the binding. Do not lift what is yours. It will keep you here. My hand shook. I stepped back. The bundle shifted. Tiny fingers poked through the cloth. Black veins threaded beneath their skin, pulsing like ink. The hand clenched, opened, reached toward me. My throat locked. My hunger twisted, not for food, not for sound, but for that hand, for the weight of it in my arms, for belonging. I nearly bent. I nearly took it. Then the conductor's voice came, sharp as the crack of glass. Return. The bundle stilled. The fingers curled back inside. The crib stopped rocking. I staggered from the carriage, heat clinging to me like wet cloth. Back in the office, the ledger filled itself, line after line. Acting station master entered Carriage D. He did not claim the bundle. He is not ready. At the bottom of the page, thicker ink scrawled itself like a scar. But the nursery waits. It always waits. Chapter 8. The Bridge That Isn't There. On the 8th night, the fog carried no smell. Not river, not smoke, not milk turned sour. Nothing. And that nothing was worse than rot. At 23:58, the bracket tapped. At 23:59, the lamps bowed. At midnight, the hum rose hollow, as if the rails were vibrating over a gap. The conductor stepped down, faceless tilt toward the train. No carriage this time. He pointed past them all, toward the engine. Ride, he said. I climbed aboard. The train pulled away from the platform, though no rails remained beyond it. Fog wrapped the windows. Steel groaned under weight it should not carry. The conductor led me forward through carriages A, B, C, D, each humming with their cargo photographs shifting, plates steaming silently, breath rising from sleepers, whimpers rattling in crates. None of the passengers looked at me. None ever did. They belonged to the train, not to me. At last, we reached the vestibule. The door opened onto black wind. The bridge. It was not stone, not steel, not wood. The bridge was absence shaped into span. The train rolled across nothing. Underneath, forever. Above, forever. On both sides, not air, not sky, not water, something older than those, black and endless. It pulsed faint, slow, like a heart too large to be alive. The lamps along the train dimmed. The windows showed not fog but stars. But not stars I knew. Too sharp, too many, too close. They bent as the train moved, rearranging into shapes, faces, hands. The bridge sang, not with voices, with metal, stone, bone, a long low drone that pressed into my teeth until they ached. I leaned out the vestibule. Beneath, something shifted in the dark. Not water, not earth. Something vast, sliding, a shape as wide as the valley itself, moving under the nothing. It opened an eye. Not white, not black, a hollow that swallowed sight. It looked up at me, and the bridge shuddered. The conductor's hand gripped my arm. Do not look down. I tried to pull free. I failed. His glove was cold, iron, welded to bone. I could not see. The black book in my coat burst open. Pages flapped wild in the wind. Ink scrawled across them faster than sight. Do not look down. Do not look long. Do not let it count you. I snapped the book shut, but the eye beneath did not close. It counted anyway. I felt it tick my ribs one by one, as though numbering me for later. The train rattled. The bridge groaned. Ahead, nothing stretched forever. Behind, nothing swallowed the station whole. I whispered, though the wind tried to steal my words. How long? The conductor's faceless head turned, until it decides you belong. The bridge sang louder. The eye beneath widened. The train lurched as though it had missed a rail. Passengers wailed behind us, not voices, not sound, only the vibration of dozens of throats working in silence. I shut my eyes. Still, the eye beneath burned through. Still, the counting ticked on. 1, 2, 3. I bit my tongue until blood filled my mouth. The taste was real, mine. It broke the count. The bridge shuddered. The train sped faster. The stars bent, screamed, rearranged into new rules. Do not stop. Do not leave. Do not look. The conductor tightened his grip. Return, he said. When I opened my eyes, we were on rails again. The station waited. The fog parted. The lamps bowed. I stumbled onto the platform. The hum faded. The train slid away, vanishing into dark. Back in the office, the ledger filled itself. Acting station master crossed the bridge. He did not fall. He did not belong yet. At the bottom, ink thick as tar scrawled one more line. But the eye has counted him, and it will not forget. Chapter 9. Carriage E, the choir of station announcements. The 9th night, the station already knew my steps. The lamps lit before I touched the oil. The ledger opened itself. The bracket tapped without waiting for 23:58. The train wanted me on board. At midnight, the fog thickened like curtains pulled shut. The hum rose. The carriages slid in. The conductor stepped down. Gloved hand pointed toward Carriage E. The choir. Inside, the air vibrated, not with sound, with anticipation. The corridor walls bulged outward as if swollen with words not yet spoken. The lamps along the ceiling flickered in rhythm, a rhythm I knew, the cadence of station announcements. The train at platform 3 is delayed. The train at platform 2 has been cancelled. The train at platform 1 will not stop here. No voice spoke them, but the words crawled under my skin like insects. I knew them because I had heard them all my life. We all had. But these were wrong, warped. Not announcements for trains, announcements for people. The first compartment held speakers bolted to the walls, old iron cone-shaped, mouths too wide. They hissed with static. Then they spoke. The passenger known as father is late. He will not arrive. He never arrives. The voice was mine, not my present voice. My childhood voice, high and thin, warped through static until it cracked. Another speaker hissed. The passenger known as mother is delayed. She has boarded another line. She will not return. My stomach turned. My throat closed. The black book in my coat burned, pages slapping open, ink scrawling hard. Do not listen. Do not believe. But the next voice came anyway. The acting station master has no destination. He will ride until counted. He will ride until gone. I staggered back. The corridor groaned under my boots. The lamps dimmed. Farther down, more compartments, more speakers. Each hissed, each spoke. Not schedules, not times, rules, verdicts, secrets. The girl in Carriage C never woke because you wrote her name wrong. The coin the man laid on your counter was yours. You refused it. Now you owe. The bridge did not count you fairly. The eye cheated. You are already half belonging. My chest tightened. My ears rang. Every voice was mine, past, present, future, all spliced together into a single, endless announcement. The passengers in the compartments sat still, eyes glazed, heads tilted to the speakers. They did not blink. They did not breathe. They listened. Every word carved into them like cuts. I clamped my hands to my ears. The voices pressed through bone. No barrier. No defense. At the far end of the carriage, a single loudspeaker larger than the rest. Rust streaked its cone. Wires tangled like veins across the walls, feeding into its mouth. It hissed, groaned, then spoke in a voice deeper than the others. Not mine, the conductor's. Attention. The acting station master is on board. He belongs to no platform. He belongs to no town. He belongs to the midnight line. Permanent. The words slammed through my chest, each syllable a hammer. I fell to my knees. The black book tore itself open. Ink spattered across the page. Do not answer. Do not agree. If you speak, it will be true. The loudspeaker groaned louder, pulling air through the carriage. It demanded, "Acting station master, confirm." I bit my tongue until blood filled my mouth. The iron taste anchored me. I stayed silent. The loudspeaker screamed, static so loud the lamps burst. Glass rained across the floor. Passengers toppled, still not blinking, still not breathing, their ears pouring dust instead of blood. Then silence. The loudspeaker cracked. Its cone split down the center. The wires shriveled to ash. The conductor appeared in the doorway, faceless, hat brim low, gloved hand lifting. "Return," he said. Back in the office, the ledger filled itself. Acting station master entered Carriage E. He did not confirm. The choir is not finished with him. At the bottom, thicker ink carved into the page. Next time, he will answer. Chapter 10. The Red-Lamped Van. The 10th night, the fog burned red. Not from the lamps, not from the sky. From the rear of the train itself, where a single lantern glowed on the last car, like an eye that never blinked. At 23:58, the bracket tapped. At 23:59, the lamps bowed. At midnight, the hum rose with a pulse so heavy it shook dust from the rafters. The conductor stepped down. He did not gesture to a carriage. He pointed only to the van, the red-lit van. Inside, the air was dry as paper. The walls were lined with shelves. Not crates, not trunks, not luggage, envelopes. Thousands of them, stacked in neat rows, tied with black string. Each bore a name. Ink faded on some, fresh on others. Some were dates, some were words. The day she ran, before the flood, when he lied. The shelves stretched farther than the carriage could hold, endless. The van was bigger inside, and the red lamp at the far end glowed brighter with every step I took. I pulled one envelope at random. The paper was brittle, edges curled. My name was on the front, not written neat, scrawled, a hand I didn't know. The black book in my coat writhed, pages flapping open, ink spattered hard. Do not open your own. Ever. I shoved it back on the shelf. The envelope rattled like something alive inside. The next bore a name I recognized. My companion, the one who had vanished at the gate with a woman's hand. The seal was unbroken. The paper was fresh, alive. I reached for the string. The conductor's glove snapped down on my wrist, cold, unyielding. "Not yours," he said. "What is it?" He tilted his faceless head. "The mail, the fares, the proof. Every passenger's end arrives here." We walked farther. The shelves leaned with the weight of thousands. The red lamp burned hotter. At last, we reached a table in the center of the van. On it lay a single envelope, unsealed, blank. The conductor gestured. "Right." I shook my head. "No." The envelope lifted on its own. A pencil rolled across the table. My hand twitched. The black book tore itself open, ink crawling in jagged script. "Do not write. If you do, the train will deliver it, and then it will be true." The envelope pressed against my hand. I felt its hunger, a mouth made of paper, waiting to swallow words. I clenched my fist. I refused. The conductor leaned close. No face, no mouth, but a voice that pressed against bone. "You cannot stop letters from arriving. Only delay them." The lamp flared. The shelves shook. Envelopes rattled, thousands of them whispering at once. Names, dates, verdicts. One tore itself open. Paper split. Dust spilled across the floor. A name hissed into the air. It was mine. The conductor's hand snapped out, catching the paper, crumpling it in his glove. The whisper died. He set the ruined envelope back on the table. "Return," he said. Back in the office, the ledger filled itself. Acting station master entered the red-lamped van. He refused to write. The letters are waiting still. At the bottom, ink bled heavier than before, soaking through the page. He cannot refuse forever. The train delivers what must be delivered. Chapter 11. The Black Engine. The 11th night. The air on the platform already tasted of iron, not fog, not smoke, blood. It clung to my tongue like a coin you cannot spit out. At 23:58, the bracket tapped. At 23:59, the lamps bowed. At midnight, the hum rose like thunder, trapped in the rails. The conductor stepped down. For the first time, he extended both hands. Gloves pale as bone. Invitation. Command. "The engine," he said. We walked the length of the train together. Carriage A hissed, with photographs still developing. Carriage B steamed with silent plates. Carriage C breathed in sync, sleepers never waking. Carriage D whimpered, crates rattling. Carriage E hummed with broken announcements. The red-lamped van whispered names from its shelves. At the front, the black engine waited. It loomed taller than the station roof. Its iron flanks were slick with oil that never cooled. The wheels turned slow, though no steam hissed. And the funnel bled, not smoke, but dust, human dust ash. The conductor opened the cab. Enter. Inside, the air burned cold. Not hot, cold. The kind of cold that sears skin until it cracks. At the center, the firebox, but no fire glowed inside. Only a pit filled with coal that was not coal. I bent closer. The lumps shifted. Hands, feet, faces. Passengers, curled and blackened, pressed together, eyes wide, mouths open. Each lump whispered faint as it burned down into itself. Not words, not cries. Breath. The last breath they had taken, replayed forever. I staggered back. My stomach lurched. The black book in my coat tore itself open, pages splitting. Ink scrawled across them like scars. The fuel is them. Every fare feeds the engine. Every journey burns what is owed. The conductor stepped to the firebox. He lifted the shovel. Its blade gleamed like bone polished too long. He scooped a passenger from the pit. The figure gasped, chest rising once, eyes flicking open. Then the shovel tipped. The body tumbled into the furnace. The breath screamed as it caught flame. The scream had no sound, only heat. The wheels turned faster. The train shuddered. "This is the engine," the conductor said. "It does not run on steam. It runs on time, on voices, on all that passengers will never have again." I stepped forward, throat raw. "Why show me this?" The conductor tilted his faceless head. "Because you will shovel next." He held out the bone shovel. It dripped ash. The firebox gaped. The pit writhed with burned bodies, hands clawing, mouths opening. I shook my head. No. The shovel grew heavy in my hands. I had not taken it, but it was there, gripped tight, cold iron biting my palms. One figure in the pit lifted its head. Her coat was mine. The missing button glinted faint in the furnace glow. Her mouth moved. No sound. But I knew the word. Help. The shovel rose. My hands lifted it. Not mine. The train's. The black book screamed. Ink tore across the pages. Words burned in jagged strokes. If you shovel, you belong. If you refuse, you burn. My arms shook. The shovel hung over the firebox. Ash hissed below. The conductor's glove rested on my shoulder, heavy as iron. "Choose," he said. I screamed. My voice finally broke the silence. Not words, not rules, only raw sound. It slammed into the cab, shaking the walls, rattling the firebox. The shovel fell from my hands, clattered against the floor. The pit hissed. The conductor stepped back. The engine groaned. Its wheels shrieked. The furnace belched ash. For a heartbeat, the fire went out. The train shuddered, stopped. Passengers wailed across the carriages, not voices, not words, but the vibration of silence breaking. The whole train screamed without sound. Then the fire roared back. The wheels turned. The train lurched forward. The conductor lifted the shovel. He slid it back into the pit. The passengers writhed. One burned. The engine steadied. He turned his faceless head toward me. "You cannot refuse forever." Back in the office, the ledger filled itself. Acting station master entered the engine. He held the shovel. He did not burn. Not yet. At the bottom of the page, ink thick as tar, scrawled a final line. "Soon, he will feed the fire himself." Chapter 12. The terminal had no address. The 12th night, the ledger was already open. Not on the desk, on the counter, waiting. My name written across the top in ink thicker than blood. At 23:58, the bracket tapped. At 23:59, the lamps bowed. At midnight, the hum rose louder than ever, shaking glass from the roof. The train slid in, carriages blacker, heavier, ash spilling from the wheels. The conductor stepped down. For the first time, he extended no hand, no gesture, no command. He only said one word, and we boarded. Not through the van, not through the carriages, straight into dark. The engine pulled us faster than before. The lamps outside blurred. Fog ripped away. The world fell back. The train ran not on rails, but on nothing. Through the black sky, over the hollow bridge, past the counting eye, it did not slow. It did not shudder. It raced into a horizon with no stars. Passengers sat silent in their compartments. Photographs in Carriage A bled into one another. Plates in Carriage B rotted to bone. Sleepers in Carriage C turned to ash, mid-breath. Crates in Carriage D rocked until wood split, shadows spilling out like smoke. Speakers in Carriage E shrieked a single word, over and over, arriving, arriving, arriving. And still the train sped on. Ahead, a light, faint at first, then brighter. A station, but not built of stone or iron, not brick, not wood. The terminal was made of names. Endless boards stretched into the dark, every plank carved with words, names of passengers, dates, verdicts, rules. They shifted, rearranging, forming walls, platforms, roofs. The whole station was a dictionary of endings. The conductor stepped off first. He turned to me, faceless, gloved hand out. "Welcome," he said. "The terminal at no address. The last stop." The platform beneath my boots quivered. I looked down. The boards were carved with my name, hundreds of times. Every spelling, every hand, each glowing faint, like embers. I staggered back. The names stretched farther, forming rails, signs, benches. The whole terminal made from me. From everyone who had ridden before, passengers not gone absorbed. The black book burst open. Pages flapped. Ink poured across them in frantic strokes. "Do not step off. Do not speak. If you claim the terminal, it claims you." The conductor tilted his head. "You have written well," he said. "You have watched and recorded, but all records end. Yours must too." He raised a gloved hand. A door appeared at the far end of the platform. Wood, plain, handle waiting. "Through there," he said. "Your shift is complete." I walked forward. Every step burned. My name underfoot flared red, then went dark. The door loomed larger, closer, waiting. I reached for the handle. The ledger in my coat flared hot, pages tearing. Ink scrawled across the last sheet. "Do not open it. If you do, you will not return, ever." My hand trembled. The conductor stood behind me. Passengers watched through empty windows. The train hummed like a throat clearing. I gripped the handle. I turned it. The door opened. Light poured out. Not white, not gold. Black light, same as in the box with my name. It swallowed the platform, the train, the passengers. The conductor, all gone. I was standing in the ticket office again. Desk, chair, ledger, lamp. Outside, the station waited, empty, silent. The ledger lay open. Fresh ink glowed. Acting station master completed his first cycle. Shift commenced. 23:58. Duty, keep the lamps, not alter the timetable. Sell no new tickets. The page turned itself. Blank lines waited. The pencil rolled toward me. The bracket tapped. The lamps bowed. And at midnight, the hum rose again.